Hey guys, it's time for beauty and fashion hot picks for the month of September. And if you haven't seen these types of videos from me before, or you're not familiar with my videos, then basically these are just my picks for the top tips and trends for whatever month we're in the fashion and beauty industries. And so I want to first start with my beauty sort of pick. I'm not really a huge fan of this look, but it is different than what we've been seeing for a long time now, and I always get excited when people finally start to change things up a little bit. So it's not really my all-time favorite look, but there are quite a few of you that really could rock it out, and the makeup industry is a little snoozeville right now, so this is a trend that I'm really starting to notice sort of take off. Basically, they're taking the kind of wavy hair and the curly hair that we've been doing for a long time with the kind of defined soft curled waves, and we're kind of taking that and turning it into what I like to lovingly refer to as sort of a lion's mane look. The waves are getting kind of much more rough. They're getting bigger and less defined. The hair is getting bigger and sort of almost teased or blown dry, bigger, and it's almost a look that just is borderline between defined and under control and completely frizzy and out of control. So basically what they're doing is you can get this look by braiding your hair and sleeping on it overnight, but when you braid it, you want to braid it into really long, loose braids, because these waves are not going to be super defined. They're actually like kind of long sections, and they just sort of chunk off, and there's no real control over it, and it just goes anywhere. So you can always do that. That's an easy way to do it. And you can also put your hair up in rag curls, but you want them to be really loose rag curls, really big round sections. So a rag curl is just really where you take your hair and you kind of, twist it and twirl it around your finger, and you tie it off with actually like a ribbon or a strip of rag. But you can bobby pin it down too. That's always an option. But in this case, you're going to want to make it either really big loops, much larger loops kind of all over the head. They should take up big sections. Or you can kind of do sort of like an oval shape, because you're going to get much more kind of longer sections that way, and just sort of tie it down or pin it down. But the idea is that it's going to be messy, so you don't want any two of them to be the same. You kind of want it all over the place. And then you're going to need to tease the front up. I mean, basically the hair in these looks is going, a lot of cases it's going straight back, but it is teased up like, like crazy, this high or more, kind of going all the way around. You can still part it if you want to, but it's really kind of a messy, that's why I call it the lion's mane look, because it just sort of comes out of everywhere. And you're also going to want to, instead of having those curls when you release them be nice and defined, you're going to want to brush through them, loosen them up, make them look almost frizzy, and get your hair to be as big as you can get it. I mean, it should stand out about this far from the head. Another twist on it is once you get your hair this way, then actually take one side of it and sort of pin one side back, so all the hair is kind of focused on the other half, or behind you. There's really kind of a push for sort of a one-sided look, so you can always wrap it behind you and pin it with a bobby pin and back to kind of hold it. But this is a really big, really messy sort of style of curl. In my opinion, when people are looking back on it, it's going to feel way worse to them than the 80s hair ever did when they see their pictures. But it's a fun thing to experiment with. I think it's a great look. If you have sort of a rocker, edgy style, then it's a great hairdo for you, and I don't think you'll look back on it and regret it. I think it'll go just fine with the way you dress. But for the average everyday person, they're going to look back probably and go, what was I thinking? But still, it's fun to experiment. It's something different. If you run with it now, you're going to be ahead of the game with everybody else. And that's what I like to do, is I always like to be a few steps ahead of everybody else. As far as fashion goes, there's kind of two trends I want to talk to you about. One of them, I like it, but it's just not going to last as long. And the other one is just more of the 90s being brought back, which I do happen to like. But, you know, it's not necessarily new. You just have to find your way to make your own twist on it. So the first trend is that basically for the fall they're taking everything they can and they're adding as much embellishment to it as possible. And the embellishment, it looks really nice, but it almost is walking a fine line on bordering a gaudy feel to it. And I mean, when I say everything, I literally mean everything. And the best example is that I'm even seeing a lot of trench coats, like the winter style trench coats, you know, like long and black, pea coat length and longer, that are being embellished kind of from top to bottom, even with things like large groupings of extremely oversized jumbo giant clusters of fake gems. You know, there'll be like a cluster here like on the shoulder, and it's 4 or 5 gems that take up like this much space, and then they're just clustered just kind of everywhere. Some of them have some sort of synchronicity to it, and some of them it's just completely random. So I'm seeing a lot of the gems sewn on things. I'm seeing a lot of like fabric, flower shapes sewn on things. I mean, sequins on everything, sequins on things you wouldn't normally put sequins on, just a lot of embellishment. So I think it's a nice trend, and I think that when you see some of these pieces, because they're going to be different than what you usually see, and really kind of dressed up, you know, fancied up, I think you're really going to like it. But the problem is with that trend, I don't think it's really going to last for a super long time. So if you invest a bunch of money into one of these long winter trench coats that has this bling all over it, you know, by next winter you might not feel quite as confident in it because people are going to have moved on to something else, and now you've got this bling this blinged out coat, and people are going to be, you know, like, whoa. So if you are partaking in this trend, just kind of think forward a little bit before you invest a lot of money into a piece, and just make sure it's a piece that you really are going to be able to get continued use out of, and that, you know, next season you're not going to feel completely dated if you're still wearing it. The other trend, which I said is basically straight out of the 90s, is it's basically a very masculine feel for the clothing. We're bringing back the extremely male cut suit styling with the heavy, you know, thick tweed, heavy fabric trouser style pants. You're seeing some overalls. Overalls in a dressed up way, not overalls in a country, you know, shoveling horse poo way. You know, the overall style with vests and things under suit jackets with the heavy trousers. A lot of hats, you know, male style bowler hats, fedora hats, and all other male style hats. But the big thing that I'm seeing, and this is actually a trend I really like, and I really loved it in the 90s. I was rocking it before it was popular, and it was one of those things where people were like, oh, those are interesting shoes you have there, and then a year later they all had them too. Is, you know, the shoe trend. And the shoe trend really is, you're going to see a lot of shoes that basically they're going to look like hiking boots with a really high heel, but literally hiking boots in the front and a high heel, you know, ankle, lower calf height style boot. The bottoms of the shoes, the soles, are going to be, you know, chunky with heavy tread, literally just like hiking boots. The only difference is they're hiking boots with a heel. You're going to see a lot of that kind of thing. You'll also see a lot of same thing, still that same boot cut style, but it's going to look like a men's dress shoe in the front. Some of them even having that extremely square toe. But just think of the classic, you know, sort of black patent shoe or brown leather style shoe that a man would wear with a suit or with, you know, his best business dress pants. That's what you're going to see for women. You're just going to see them adding a heel onto the back of it. Okay, so just very masculine kind of look. Everything is going to be much more tailored in. The blousey stuff goes away, and the dress, you know, tightly fitted sort of dress shirts, button-down shirts tucked into big trouser pants with maybe even a vest and, you know, blazer type thing. A lot of men's style pants to be worn, but with a feminine twist, to fit a feminine body but with a very masculine feel. And that's, you know, that's basically it. It's kind of a, you know, we're doing a lot of regurgitation of the 90s right now, and that's going to continue for a while because we always tend to do that. You know, we as adults, we miss the decades that we grew up in, and so, you know, these young designers are remembering their youth basically, and they're trying to make a new twist on what they grew up with. So they're taking the old trends and they're just, you know, bringing them all back, and that's just what we're seeing. And I kind of wish that we were doing a lot more of it from much further back. Like, I would love to see some old, you know, flapper style looks coming back, or something just much more interesting. A lot more of the, I mean, I love the 50s style dresses, and those come back quite a bit. So, you know, there's nothing too special about that, but I would like to really go back even further to like the 40s and the 20s. Part of this men's styling does have a bit of the flapper era feel, not the flapper dress, but you know, when women were really kind of pushing wearing men's clothing back then, and, you know, it still wasn't, it was still a very new thing for women to wear pants and that sort of thing. So the styles were all basically fitted, you know, designed for men. They weren't really designed for women just yet. And so they had a very male type of fabrics and very male type of colors and very manly kind of weights to the fabrics and prints to the fabrics. And you are seeing that now, so that makes it really exciting for me, because it's a manly look, but with that really 20s, you know, if you think about a flapper and how thin and, you know, tightly fitted those little dresses were, even though they had the fringe and everything, you know, they really were kind of ruler shaped, straight to the body. And a lot of these men's stylings that you're going to be seeing right now have that straight to the body kind of ruler sort of feel. It elongates the body quite a bit, so the pants are going to seem really long. You may see some really wide mouth leg style trousers. That's going to be part of what makes it more feminine, but it's going to be in very heavy fabrics. So I love these looks. These looks are a little bit hard to shop if you are somebody who shops in places like you know, Walmart and Target and Kohl's and you know, cheaper places to shop, kind of your everyday department store. It's going to be hard to find some of the stylings, particularly in the clothes, just because the fabrics are such, you know, nicely made fabrics that the companies that make, you know, our cheaper throwaway clothes, Forever 21, those kind of places are not going to be able to manufacture them to be able to offer them at their pricing levels. But you will find the shoes. You'll be able to find the shoes, I think, pretty easily. So if you can't find anything else and you want to try the trend, look at the shoes first. You may be able to find some of the button-down shirts that are going to be more kind of a straight fit and you know, very tailored tightly to the body, and but still with sort of a masculine edge to it. You may be able to find some of those a little bit easier. And then some of the accessories, you know, vests you might be able to find a little easier. The hats you're probably going to be able to find easier. And maybe even some of the additional things like little suspenders or, you know, a men's tie. But the men's ties are going to be a little thinner than a regular, you know, man's tie. Not the strip that we had sort of in the early 90s, not the strip tie, but they would still be a little bit smaller and kind of narrowed down to fit a woman's body. But anyway, this is a lot of what I'm seeing, and it is kind of a fun thing to play around with, and it gives you an excuse to get kind of a new updated haircut to go with that. Not that you want to have a masculine haircut, but a cute little bob goes really well with those looks, and straight, sort of a blunt edge, not so much the A-line bob where it's shorter in the back, but something that's shorter. You could do some spiral curls with that. With the hat would be really cute to put your feminine twist back into it. But that's really it. I like these looks. I think they're fun. Just be careful about what you're shopping for, because these are a little bit tricky. They're not going to carry as far forward into the future as a lot of other trends. So make sure before you invest a lot of money in a piece that you know that you will still be able to wear it next year and the year after that and the year after that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to plan to wear it this season, pack it away, and another 10 or 20 years it'll come back around anyway. So you can pull it back out then if you take good care of it. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of these ideas, then let me know as always. I did just recently post my updated everyday makeup routine, and so if you missed that, I will put a link to that down in the information bar. And don't forget to subscribe so that you are receiving all of my current videos in your subscription box. As I upload a new video, that will show up in your subscription box for about 24 to 48 hours, and that way you're less likely to miss a video. And I will see you next time. Bye.